Hey, what's up? Dusk the Viking here, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about this latest Company of Heroes patch, the 1.0.5 patch, and really just patches in general and how complicated a balance patch can be, especially a big one that changes this much stuff. But before I get into that, I also want to address the fact that the patch came out with a lot of bugs and stuff in it. To me, and missing stuff. To me, this looks like a lot of people maybe have been working several days with little to no sleep. So, yeah, Relic, if you are working your people around the clock, I'm going to say, man, let people sleep because, a broken patch, I would have been fine waiting until Tuesday or even Wednesday. If it meant people got some sleep and put out a better quality patch, right? So, we don't want people getting crunched to death. So, yeah. I would hope that we all kind of come to that same conclusion. Let's be a little bit forgiving at this point. It looks like they're starting to strain under the pressure. So, yeah, for the next couple days, I'm just going to play the game and just deal with the bugs. It's like, yeah, whatever. It's not like the formal, ranked season's out yet. So it's not that big of a deal. We can just kind of play around it. But yeah, let's get back to talking about patches in general, which, heads up, full disclosure, this video isn't going to be too much about anything. I just kind of want to jabber about patches. So yeah, if you just want to hear me jabber about stuff, let's go. So first thing I want to start off with is just an example in this patch of how things can get really complicated with balance. Let's start with the boys anti-tank rifles nerf. Now, I'm not going to include the bug. That bug's going to get fixed and, they'll be in a healthy spot. Well, once they get to that healthy spot, that's going to give vehicle play a little bit more breathing room. These big giant boys swarms that come out really fast because they get rushed because they're so effective. They're not going to be rushed, and when they do come out, they're going to be a lot more minimalistic. So this gives more room for vehicles, right? You're going to see light vehicles especially probably become a bit more prevalent, which means that for the US faction players, as these build orders get a little bit more meta, they're going to see them too, which will give their Zuka squads more relevance. So what this means is that by buffing or nerfing the boys anti-tank rifle, you have inadvertently buffed Zuka squads. Now, what's interesting is that Zuka squads also just got an actual buff, right? So, just from those two changes, I can see US having, feeling like their things are more useful. Their early game tech just is going to feel more impactful now, uh, which is good, right? Because from what I read, US was really struggling in a lot of places, and they're kind of shoehorned into just like one min maxed strat with no real room to pivot. So in that sense, I'm glad for that, but I'm not really here to weigh in on the balance. I just want to talk about the crazy chain reactions that happen when you do balance changes. So in this patch, we can say that the Zuka squads actually got a double buff because the AT nerf and because of the actual buff. Now that's just one single change, right? This patch is massive. There are so many changes. And every time you nerf or buff one thing, that's going to affect play on the other side, which that play becomes more or less prevalent. And then that will in turn affect the counters to those on the other side of the faction. So you always have, this effect and then the backlash effect. And with all the changes we have, when you have a nerf, an effect, and then a backlash effect, and then the same thing over here then also gets sort of like a nerf or a buff, then doubles in to then affect something with then another backlash, which might overlap somewhere, which can then, because of the overlap, just inadvertently cause another, change that then might also cause another backlash. And you start getting more and more complicated um, effects and changes. But those changes can be hard to see at first. And so here's an example to help illustrate how hard changes are to see. Let's say that there's a popular meta build order, right? And it's very, it's very clean and it's very powerful, right? And it's just effective. However, because of counterplay and stuff like that, there's another build order that you can pivot to that beats this build order. So you've got build order A, which is just a really good, strong, clean build order. But then you have build order B, which is something that you can delay and then pivot into. But build order B is like a trash build order. It's really inefficient. It doesn't, work all that well. It has a bulky transition. It's just a bad build order. But it counters build order A. So first you have the time it takes for build order A to kind of catch on and get meta. And, the back and forth as people contend, and then somebody comes up with a way, a tactic, to beat it from a different angle, build order B. Well, then it's going to take time for that to catch on, and then people to refine the pivot point, like how much scouting do they need to verify that they need to transition to this bad build order. So some time goes on, and that happens. Well, because build order B is, for the most part, just a bad build order, it's really easy to counter by any number of other things. So then you have build orders C, D, and E that are all options to counter build order B, which is really only a counter to build order A. So then what you really have is build order C, D, and E are all inadvertently counters to build order A. And yeah, it gets really messy really quick, right? But this stuff takes a long time for it to all really seep out, and hundreds and hundreds of matches, thousands really, need to be played. So as you can see, like balance is complicated in a real truly competitive setting, right? In less competitive settings, like for anybody who's a Hunt Showdown player, Hunt Showdown, people play competitively. There are competitive players with a competitive nature, but Hunt Showdown is not a competitive game, right? It has very casual balancing. The balancing mirrors that more of like a single player game with tiers of weapons designed and intentionally made to be more powerful than other weapons, right? Like it's a game that is meant to be fun, but can be played with a competitive spirit, right? Just because of the nature of what it is. But so balancing for that is not as complicated because you can just do whatever, and it honestly doesn't really matter. But for something like Company of Heroes and RTS, or maybe League of Legends, which is a MOBA, or any other high-end like actual competitive games where you would have like real tournament play and whatnot, ladders and things like that, it's really complicated. So if Relic is on the ball and aware, and I'm going to say that they are, because this patch was huge, but it seems to be really good. So they seem to be really aware of all the back and forth and nuance, and I would not be surprised if in the game design room they had like a big wall with push pins and conspiracy theory style yarn going from push pins to push pin, to help them visualize, all the crazy effects that their balance changes are going to have. Because this really is a good patch minus all the bugs, which again, I think might just be a side effect of crunch and overworked employees. So, yeah. Long story short, in everything I just jabbered on about, we need to give Relic some time. We need to give this balance patch time to shake out, for the metas to kind of like form around it. We need to make sure Relic's employees are getting sleep. So Relic, it's okay to take your foot off the gas pedal for a little bit. I'm personally probably going to advocate for just like letting things go ahead and proceed at a slightly slower pace. I think we can play around some of these bugs. The game now does seem to be, even with like this buggy patch, in a better state than it was before. So it's been improved. I went on to Twitch and lurked a few streams for some of the higher end players and noticed that they seem to be very happy with how the game felt. It seemed like they felt like they had more options. There were more things available. Gameplay was more back and forth. And those are all really good things that you like to see and hear about. And those are things that you can only get through feel by playing, which is why I was lurking streams. I wanted to see the feel of the patch because, again, because of all the back and forth and backlash and chain reaction stuff, it can be hard to just read patch notes and see the full implication of what's actually, going to happen. So you sometimes just have to play it. And, again, yeah, from what I saw, it's good. So that's a good sign for us, is that Relic seems to be really dialed in on this one, which has me excited. And they obviously have a pretty good work ethic, maybe too much of a work ethic. But even if they slow down, we can expect that this next month here is going to be filled with a lot of good quality of life stuff. And over the course of the next 2 months, we're going to see Company of Heroes 3 really flesh out. And, they'll be on track to really have the game looking good in a couple of months. Whereas some developers who are a little too slow, that would translate into a couple, if not several years, right? So we definitely don't have to worry about that. And it seems like the core of Company of Heroes 3 is really great. And most importantly, it's a lot of fun. Like, it's really fun. This is the most fun Company of Heroes ever put out. I think it's going to be the most competitive and interesting. I think it's very watchable. I think people who don't even play Company of Heroes are going to enjoy watching Company of Heroes, which, if you're a content creator, I think that's going to be good news. I expect tournaments to be really fun to watch, man, because people, it's a World War II RTS that does a good job of painting a picture of an actual battlefield. So anybody who's ever seen a war movie or anything, can just walk up and look at it and be like, oh, wow, that one side is really destroying the crap out of that other side. I can tell because their stuff just exploded. It's something that you can watch and make sense out of as a bystander. So that's really cool. That's not something that you get with things like League of Legends. A bystander walking up and watching, a League of Legends tournament, nothing would make any sense. It's just a bunch of spell effects and then somebody getting excited and then apparently somebody won. And that's all a bystander really gets out of it, right? So, yeah, I'm pretty excited for the future of this. It's got more readability, I think, than even Age of Empires. Age of Empires 4, they had a really good launch, and Ages 4 is really good, largely because they've done the same thing that Company 3 has done, and they went back to their roots, right? Back to, like, the core of what made good RTS good. Got rid of all, a lot of the weird gimmick mechanics and all these goofy things, and it's about just trying to make, like, clean, RTS mechanics with a good solid core that isn't, too convoluted. Yeah, so Yeah, Aegis 4 was really good, but I think Company 3 is going to be even better because, again, like, I think Aegis 4 is a little hard for a bystander to watch and see everything that's going on, because I think there's, like, a lot of macro play, and it's hard to understand the macro play if you're a bystander, right? But Company, the macro play is pretty easy to see. Oh, this side has more side, one side has more control of the map. There's a lot of blue on that map, or a lot of red. I guess that they're doing pretty good. Like, it's pretty easy to read. So, like, those were all really good things, man. So I'm pretty hopeful for all that stuff. Yeah, yeah. God, there was something else I wanted to chime in about too. It was just on the tip of my tongue. I forgot what it was. Oh, well, I suppose this is probably a pretty good place to stop here, right? Anyway, thanks for listening to me jabber. I just wanted to talk about patches and stuff. Next video, I think I'm going to do a guide on Verimoct, because somebody asked about that, to talk about all the nuance of the units and available tactics and stuff like that. Anyway, thanks for watching.